Insurance fraud in the UK is reaching epidemic levels, and it's costing us billions of pounds every year. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injury claims, even fake deaths. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year, it's adding up to £50 to your insurance bill. Insurers are fighting back, armed with covert surveillance systems.
The CCTV cameras are the best tool we've got in our fight against fraud.
Sophisticated data analysis techniques.
This is connected to a bank account and a second mobile phone number.
And a newly formed dedicated police unit.
Please get back!
They're catching the criminals red-handed. All those con men, scammers, cheats on the fiddle, now they're caught in the act, and claimed and shamed. Today, a specialist police fraud unit is on the hunt for fake pet insurance claims. A crash for cash gang pick a big victim.
And the infectious brake, yeah, got it.
And an insurer is taken for a ride.
This is a guy who claims that he'll never be able to work again and is in pretty well constant pain.
All of these collisions are crash for cash attempts. Crash for cash is a term given to collisions executed in order to make money from motor insurance policies. And it's rife. A recent poll found that 5% of drivers under the age of 35 have staged an accident in order to make a fraudulent insurance claim. But crash for cash is not an opportunistic crime. It's organised, often by gangs. Simply slamming on the brakes in front of a victim would attract suspicion, so the crash gangs have evolved a devious two-car tactic. First, the gang choose a victim. Then they move their two cars into position in front of the target. Gang car number 1 then slams on its brakes. Gang car 2 reacts by braking hard, resulting in a rear-end shunt from the victim. Gang car 1 then turns off at the next possible turning, pretending to be unaware of the crash. The march of the crash for cash gangs isn't going unchecked. A specialist unit from the Metropolitan Police is determined to remove these fraudsters from our roads.
Any tactic that we can think of, we will use to catch these people.
One of the unit's most powerful tools is video surveillance.
Both vehicles now in the offside lane of 2.
It's September 2007. A crash for cash gang is being filmed on the A41. The gang is setting up a grocery van for a smash.
Yes, it's the offside lane towards the Mike 25. And
the gang didn't randomly pick the grocery van as a victim. They chose it because it's a fleet vehicle.
The reason for choosing a fleet vehicle is that they're insured, and that's what they're interested in. They're interested in whoever hits them is insured, so they can maximise their claim and not be worried about being run into by a non-insured driver.
The gang move in on the innocent van driver. Car number 1 is about to slam on its brakes, forcing car 2 to react.
Yes, it's the offside lane towards the Mike 25. And the infectious brake, yeah, got it. Yeah.
Car 1, the decoy, has driven off, leaving car 2 to make the claim against the innocent grocer.
Yeah, the lorry's now just gone into the back of the Jaguar.
And have obtained.
We have obtained.
We started looking at this organised criminal gang.
Asian male 1 now out of the vehicle, and the subject.
This smash was one of 3 claims the gang made, totalling £55,000. Thanks to the video evidence, they didn't keep a penny.
All 6 were convicted. The main ringleader receiving some 8 months imprisonment, and the remaining 5 2-year suspended sentences.
These fraudsters were off the roads, but the Met Traffic Unit is fighting a constant battle against crash for cash gangs. In the autumn of 2009, the unit discovered another crash gang, and once again a fleet vehicle was the target.
It involved three lads who decided to basically create a slam-on in front of a vehicle.
The blue car ahead is planning to execute a crash for cash manoeuvre. They're not using a decoy car and simply plan to surprise the driver of the fleet vehicle. The van driver falls into their trap.
The reason they stated for them to do emergency stop was because there was a bus stop, and there was a bus at the bus stop, and there was a woman stepping off the bus onto the road, and that was the reason why they stopped.
But the fraudsters are out of luck, as the camera fitted to the fleet vehicle reveals the truth of the matter.
As you see on the footage, there is a bus stop, but there is no bus, and there certainly isn't a woman stepping onto the road. When I saw the evidence, I thought it was very audacious, and I was very surprised that someone could be so blatant just to slam on for no apparent reason in the middle of a busy junction on a busy road, with no regard whatsoever to the chaos that causes.
At Croydon Crown Court, all 3 occupants of the car were found guilty of fraud by false representation, and each sentenced to 3 months imprisonment. A satisfactory outcome for the owners of the fleet vehicle, online grocer Ocado.
Specifically targeting our drivers is very distressing for them. It feels a bit like being mugged. It also affects their professional pride in the job that they do. Where we believe there's a fraudulent crash, we will pursue it right through the court system. There's no debate about that at all. We'll take it all the way.
This sort of crime is probably a growing trend in this country now. If people go to prison, they might think twice about doing it.
Brake, 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 yeah.
There is absolutely the potential that a staged fraudulent accident can kill someone. There's no doubt about that. It's an accident, and it has all the same dangers as any other road accident.
A police unit raids the home of a suspected insurance fraudster.
Yeah, okay.
A corner shop in Barnsley gets torched.
She lied to her family, she's lied to her friends, and she lied to the police about what happened.
And a private investigator closes in on a shamed claimer.
During the footage, it clearly shows him going up 40, 50 feet high in order to get on a ride.
In the fight against the growing problem of insurance fraud, an elite police squad have come together to form IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
Insurance fraudsters are hitting us in our pockets. That's not right. IFED have been set up to combat that problem, and we will do so by making arrests all over the country.
This dedicated team works tirelessly to bang up the crooks and con men getting rich off other people's money.
If you commit insurance fraud, there's every chance that IFED are going to come knocking on your door and bringing you to justice.
Police, don't move, stay where you are!
By April 2012, after only 6 months of operating, they had already busted 80 fraudsters, adding up to £12 million of fraud under investigation.
Insurance fraud is seen at the moment as an easy touch. IFED are setting out to stop that and make these organised crime groups think again.
IFED investigates every type of insurance fraud: personal injury, buildings, holiday, even pet insurance fraud. Fraudulent pet insurance claims rose from £420,000 in 2009 to £1.92 million in 2011, a nearly 5-fold increase over 2 years. Today, IFED is planning a raid on a suspect known to have a long track record of claiming against multiple insurance policies.
I've in fact dealt with her earlier this year about a number of cases, in fact 8 cases in total. This time when I arrest her, I'm going to have to be interviewing her about another 20 cases.
As well as making numerous home contents claims, she has submitted a large number of pet insurance claims with different insurers.
I'm just getting the paperwork together, and we're going to have to move quite quickly on this and arrest her sooner rather than later, because the claims keep on coming in.
On the raid, the IFED team will be keen to establish whether any of the supposedly deceased dogs are still alive.
We've got information to suggest there is one Chihuahua which is alive, but we think there might be other dogs there as well. We're also going to be looking for computers and telephones, and you know, for evidence of her applying for the insurance policies. It's hard to separate, you know, fact from fiction. She comes up with a whole lot of stories, so we're going to have to be careful with the way we deal with her.
The team members arrive outside the suspect's house. Not knowing what to expect, they leave nothing to chance and put on protective equipment.
Hello, Alex Cooley. Yeah, we met in January, didn't we? Do you want to take a seat? No, okay. Take a seat and I'll explain. I'm going to arrest you for a whole number of fake insurance claims.
With access to the property gained, T.I. Cooley explains to the suspects what they're looking for.
We need to look for evidence, basically to confirm what dogs you have, yeah, and to look for documentation to the insurance policies, okay? So, how many Chihuahuas? I saw one standing up.
Staffy type pit bull, so just go easy. He looks like he's ready to jump.
Yeah, okay. Your dog left.
To shut that door, I don't intend to search that.
We do need to get her to the police station as soon as practical. We're going to have a look and we're going to search the house for evidence relating to the insurance fraud.
Before taking the suspect into custody, the IFED team ask her to direct them to any documents relating to insurance.
Is there anything here that you can help us with to quicken our search? Any paperwork relating to those insurance claims?
What, the claims that's gone on already, or...?
Anything to do with insurance? Any claims?
I have no claims of these. You've got one.
Thank you. You just place it on there for us.
Sorry, yeah.
Anything like that.
The suspect is compliant. She shows the team where to find the paperwork it has come for.
If you just leave that there, we'll make details, we won't take it with us. Yeah.
Is there anything upstairs in your bedroom?
The suspect is taken into custody for further questioning, leaving IFED to search the whole house for evidence of multiple fraudulent pet insurance claims. IFED's search for evidence keeps running into little interruptions. Personal injury insurance exists to help us when, due to an accident, we are unable to work or need money for extra care. And like motor insurance, it's being abused by dishonest claimants. The number of personal injury claims received by insurers leapt 72% between 2002 and 2010, a figure that is set to rise. In 2007, this man was injured at work.
The claimant had been operating a burger van. He was mopping up at the end of the day, and somebody had collided with the rear of it, as a result of which he'd sustained damage to both knees.
Due to his knee injuries, the burger van owner sought compensation. Stating that he was no longer able to work, he claimed for £425,000 in lost future earnings. On top of that, he made a further claim for adaptations to his property.
Shortly after the firm was instructed, we received a request for an interim payment to enable this guy to adapt his house to fit a through lift, a downstairs bathroom and a downstairs toilet, suggesting a very high level of disability indeed.
This was an unforeseen expense for the insurer, but before they paid out on any adaptations to the burger van owner's house, some information about the claimant was discovered.
Some medical evidence though emerged which suggested that he had convictions for fraud and dishonesty, as a result of which they became particularly interested in the possibility that this claim might be one that they should be looking at very hard.
The insurer was suspicious of the claimant. They decided to call in the help of a private investigator.
Insurers will sometimes commission surveillance when they believe that the injury which is being claimed does not support the level of damages which is beginning to emerge, and that was certainly the case here.
The nature of his work means the investigator needs to remain anonymous.
We specialise in surveillance as a company, and as a percentage, 75% of the surveillance we carry out is insurance fraud or insurance-related surveillance.
Due to an anonymous tip-off, the private investigator was instructed to film the claimant for a whole Sunday.
The solicitor was very keen for us to place the claimant under surveillance that particular weekend, so it was one Friday evening that I received a call on my mobile from the solicitor, and we dispatched a surveillance team. You know, it's very short notice for us to get the surveillance team and unit together and deployed out to the claimant's home address. He did come out of the house in the morning, seemed to be loading up and sorting out his car. Well, what unfolded was incredible, really.
The claimant was on a day trip to an amusement park. After buying himself a ticket, the private investigator entered the park and set about surveying the claimant.
We filmed him as and when it was possible. At the theme park, he was going on rides, and he did have a walking stick with him, but it didn't seem as though he was using it in a weight-bearing capacity.
The video evidence showed a man capable of walking without the aid of a stick and comfortably handling a fairground mallet.
Later on during the day, you know the strongman hammer, you bang it with a mallet and up it goes and you're trying to hit the bell. He was filmed using one of those. And this is a guy who claims that he'll never be able to work again. He's totally restricted with his mobility and is in pretty well constant pain.
That day, his claim to need a stair lift and downstairs bathroom was also to be dispelled.
It's interesting that he claimed that he needed a ground floor bathroom and a stair lift. However, during the footage, it clearly shows him going up 40, 50 feet high in order to get on a ride.
The surveillance op filmed the claimant managing a 4-story ascent before shooting down an amusement ride.
At the end of the day, the camera does not lie, and you can't argue the case. The video footage clearly shows an individual who is exaggerating his symptoms. From the time he left his home address to going back after he'd been to the theme park, he was out for approximately 10 hours of the day.
In the face of such overwhelming evidence, the burger van owner had no choice but to accept a vastly reduced payout.
The result of all this was that a claim which was originally put at £800,000 settled for a very small fraction of that indeed. In addition to getting his small percentage of what he claimed, there was also a costs order against him. This is another case where I'd be very surprised if the claimant came out any better off than he went in.
I would say the general public would think, hang on a minute, I pay huge premiums for my motor insurance, for my household insurance, and they seem to be going up every single year, way above the rate of inflation. And the reason they're going up is because we have become a claim culture. This person's really exaggerating and they're defrauding the system. And as a result of these individuals, our claims are going through the roof.
Most business premises in the UK are insured against property damage. A sensible measure when you consider that in the UK in 2009, large-scale fire damage costs totalled £865 million. Shockingly, 40% of all fires at commercial premises are subsequently found to have been arson. Meet Sukhjit Kaur. She and her husband used to own D&S Super Save, a corner shop in Barnsley, South Yorkshire. D&S Super Save had been serving the needs of East Barnsley until a terrible event destroyed the family business.
It was 3:30 in the morning, the 9th of March 2010, when the police received a call from Mrs. Carr. Mrs. Carr was in a very hysterical state, and she was at a neighbour's address at the time. The neighbour took over the call, and the information was passed through the neighbour to the effect that 3 masked men had gone into Mrs. Carr's home address, held them knife point, her and her husband and a small child for a number of hours that had been held hostage at knife point, and just prior to leaving the address, the masked men set fire to the premises.
Her husband was also asked about the masked gang.
Mr. Singh maintained the same story, that 3 masked men had gone into the house, held them at knife point and set fire to the premises.
Sukhjit and her husband claimed to have been subjected to a frightening attack, lost their livelihood and nearly killed in their own home. Their neighbour Jean Kay was also affected by the fire.
The neighbour was very shook up. It was 3:30 in the morning. She was asleep in bed. She was awoken by the sound of an explosion, which was probably from aerosols within the store. When she woke, the house was smoke-filled. She did suffer from smoke inhalation, and she had to be taken to hospital for treatment. Had she not woke up, it could have been much, much more serious.
Having survived the ordeal, Mrs. Kaur informed her insurer of the event, submitting a claim for £166,000. With this payout, Sukhjit and her husband could rebuild their business. Their insurer began to process their claim, but soon hit a snag.
We discovered that she'd taken the policy out one day before the fire.
This coincidence raised the suspicion of the insurer, so they looked into the financial state of the couple. It didn't look good.
Mrs. Kaur told our loss adjuster that the business had been in financial difficulty for some years. They used to run a post office which went, and for the last 6-7 years they'd had great difficulty in surviving, and she'd borrowed lots of money from a local money lender. She didn't admit to the loss adjuster or to us exactly how much she owed, but we know, having done the background checks in terms of financial status, and this is in the public domain, that she owed up to, or she had CCJs to the value of £150,000.
With a business deeply in debt and a potential insurance payout of £166,000, the insurer had good reason to suspect Sukhjit and her husband were involved in the arson. So South Yorkshire Police brought her in for questioning.
When we first spoke to Mrs. Kaur, she broke down and told us that she was in a lot of debt and that she was involved. That led to her arrest, and she was formally interviewed at the police station. And it was during that interview that she confessed to being involved in setting the fire for the purpose of making an insurance claim.
Although she confessed to the crime, Sukhjit insisted the plan hadn't been her idea.
She owed a lot of money to the loan shark, and he wanted his money back. So what he suggested to her, put in a large insurance fraud. He would organise people to come into the shop at the dead of night and actually set the fire.
At Sheffield Crown Court, Sukhjit Kaur was sentenced to 5 years for conspiracy to defraud, later reduced to 4 years on appeal. For his part in the deception, her husband was sentenced to 3 years.
She had, of her own accord, managed to get herself into a lot of debt. She couldn't manage that debt. She could see no way out of that debt. She lied to her family, she's lied to her friends, and she lied to the police about what happened.
When we found out they'd been given custodial sentences, for us at Allianz it was a very pleasing outcome. It sends a message out that insurance fraud is no longer a victimless crime. There are victims, and you won't get away with it.
Today, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department, IFED, has raided the property of a woman suspected of multiple attempts of pet insurance fraud. She's been taken into custody, leaving the team to search her property for evidence. Her boyfriend has just arrived outside.
Oh, the boyfriend's here, right, okay. She's just with the female officer because we're going to be questioning her today in police station. Well, she was dealt with for a number of offences earlier in the year, as you know. Unfortunately, there are offences which have occurred more recently, and some going back over the last couple of years.
IFED resumes its search. Just like the suspect, her boyfriend proves to be helpful in the hunt for evidence.
Succeed.
The search for evidence spreads to the first floor of the property.
I'll take these two because they're just related to her identity documents.
You give that back an highway.
Yeah, she'll be entitled to everything back.
In less than an hour, the team has unearthed several bags of potential evidence relating to pet insurance claims. Making the search more complicated is the fact that the suspect goes under several aliases.
That's Mrs.
Do you missus?
Yeah.
Even after an hour, the team still isn't used to the smaller inhabitants of the house.
Oh, look around.
Who are you?
IFED has seen enough. It has a boot full of potential evidence, leaving the team confident of a conviction.
It is putting money on everyone's insurance policies because the fraud element is always taken into account by the insurers. So hopefully by arresting the suspect today will make some small contribution towards turning things around so that hopefully one day insurance premiums can start to come down.
If convicted of fraud, the suspect could face a punishing fine and a spell in prison. Insurance fraud in the UK is reaching epidemic levels, and it's costing us billions of pounds every year. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injury claims, even fake deaths. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year, it's adding up to £50 to your insurance bill. Insurers are fighting back, armed with covert surveillance systems.
Everything that we do has to remain cutting edge.
Sophisticated data analysis techniques.
Without having something like this, we would always be one step behind.
And a newly formed dedicated police unit.
Police, get back!
They're catching the criminals red-handed. All those con men, scammers, cheats on the fiddle, now they're caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Today, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department busts into the house of a suspect.
All right, we got a warrant.
One claimer discovers that no win, no fee doesn't apply to fraud.
Somewhat surprisingly and shockingly, found that no, she was not on that bus.
And a supposedly injured fraudster's story falls apart.
Most striking thing of the 12 days footage is there was no wheelchair.
Being a fraudster is a full-time job, as one would-be conman found to his cost when he failed to keep up his deception whilst under surveillance. In 2006, lorry driver Graham Loveday was the victim of a minor road traffic incident. The details were passed to the driver's insurer. On the face of it, this was a straightforward low-speed collision, as CEO David Slater reveals.
Mr. Loveday was driving along the road and he passed a petrol station, and as he passed the petrol station, our policyholder pulled out and hit the rear wheel. Mr Loveday initially went for a medical report, and that report initially said that he'd got a whiplash injury with some bruising, and that the whole injury would resolve itself inside 5 to 8 months.
So far, so simple. Graham stood to gain the standard amount of compensation for whiplash, around £2,500. But 12 months after the accident, things seemed to take a dramatic turn for the worse.
Then subsequently went for a second medical report about a year later, and in fact at that medical report the doctor was unable to assess him because he said he was unable to get out of his wheelchair.
It was an astonishing development. Mr Loveday's condition had deteriorated to the point where he claimed he often required a wheelchair, and even on good days had difficulty getting around.
And he subsequently claimed that he was pretty much wheelchair bound, and obviously had constant pain all the time, and was unable to do many of the basic tasks of everyday living, and needed extensive care from his wife.
It wasn't just physical injuries. He also said he was suffering psychologically.
Mr Loveday also claimed that he had a phobia of car travel. So he literally said that if he got into a car, that would immediately make him vomit.
With such extensive injuries, the claim for treatment and care was mounting.
Our legal advice was that in this case, the cost to us would have been approximately £1 million.
The insurer was becoming suspicious.
I think the first thing that rang alarm bells to us with this claim was when we received that second medical report. Certainly if someone has got an injury so severe that they're going to be wheelchair bound, normally that will be apparent very early on.
It just didn't add up.
We had these two medical reports showing completely different injuries, so clearly we wanted to get to the truth of whether the injury really was anywhere near as severe as he was now alleging.
The insurer went straight to a group of specialist undercover investigators, led by Tim Young.
Ultimately, our task is to gain an objective slice of their life. So it's simply a case of turning up and maximising the amount of footage that we can get so that others within the legal process can form a good objective opinion of someone's capabilities.
Their mission was to covertly film Graham Loveday to see if he was as injured as he claimed.
The Graham Loveday case centred around the fact that we were dealing with an individual who was purportedly suffering from some form of physical disability, but not only that, there was psychological trauma as well. Around the area of his home address and around the overall area, he was presenting himself as a male who was actually quite disabled and walked in such a way as to suggest that he had a fairly significant disability.
What they saw at first seemed to fit with his statements, but then they got a tip-off that changed everything.
We've been informed that he was likely to be going on holiday, so we placed him under surveillance over a given period of time.
The claimant is now getting inside the driver's seat.
The man, who claimed to be sick when he was inside a car, was observed driving for several hours to his holiday destination.
He was found to travel from where he lived in South Wales all the way to the Isle of Wight.
Now with a left indication. Left indication.
It's a significant journey for someone who is purportedly nervous of driving and incapable, I guess, of sitting for long periods of time as well.
The surprises continued. Far from appearing tired or anxious after the lengthy journey, on arrival he seemed rejuvenated and was walking freely.
The contrast in his abilities and his overall demeanour was very significant. He was totally relaxed.
As he unwinds in what he thinks is the safety of a secluded campsite, he starts to demonstrate signs of his true physical ability.
I think that one of the most interesting pieces of footage that we gained was him lifting a generator.
He's now lifting something heavy out of awning.
And actually starting the petrol generator, so like a lawnmower, starting the engine in that way.
It seems to be pulling at something, i.e. a generator pull call to start.
On his return from holiday, he continues to perform a variety of strenuous physical activities.
There were a number of other specific examples. So, for example, he's seen servicing a car, which obviously involves a lot of bending over, which clearly you would not expect someone who's wheelchair bound to be able to do.
The length of the surveillance meant they hadn't just caught him on a good day.
There was 12 days footage in total. We'd obviously been told that Mr. Loveday was wheelchair bound. He needed a wheelchair if he travelled any distance at all. And the most striking thing of the 12 days footage is there was no wheelchair. It was very clear to us in this case that Mr. Loveday was grossly exaggerating the extent of his injuries. It was really rather difficult not to be absolutely certain that this was a fairly audacious attempt at a major fraud.
They had all the evidence they needed. The next step was to bring Graham Loveday to justice.
This case ended up in court. We felt it was really important to make it clear that Saga Insurance is not going to tolerate frauds of this type. Judge found Mr. Loveday guilty. Mr. Loveday was sentenced to 9 months in prison. Yeah, I think Mr. Loveday's motivation was undoubtedly agreed to try and get some more money. We certainly fought him in this case, yes.
A pair of claimers ashamed on camera.
Our expert didn't accept that there was any possibility whatsoever that they'd been injured.
In the fight against the growing problem of insurance fraud, an elite squad have come together to form IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
Insurance fraud isn't a victimless crime. £50 of each premium you pay each year goes to the fraudsters. We have been set up to tackle that problem.
This dedicated team works tirelessly to bang up the crooks and con men getting rich off other people's money.
It is our intention to create a climate of fear for the fraudster. There's every chance that an IFED detective may come knocking on their door to arrest them for committing an insurance fraud.
Police, don't move, stay where you are!
By April 2012, after only 6 months of operating, they had already busted 80 fraudsters, adding up to £12 million of fraud under investigation.
These people are criminals. These are nasty people. They don't go out to work on a Monday morning like most people do. Their work is submitting insurance fraud claims.
Today, the IFED team, led by DS Mark Forster, has come to raid the home of a suspect wanted for questioning about car insurance fraud.
But this particular individual accepted numerous motor insurance policies. We think somewhere in the region, just this one company, somewhere in the region of 60 or 70 motor insurance policies. The insurer puts the loss at somewhere in the region of £50,000.
The large number of motor insurance policies belonging to the suspect has led IFED to believe this indicates fraudulent activity. They want to arrest the suspect and question him in detail about what's going on.
Got the warrant then?
They're not expecting the inhabitants of the house to be cooperative and are ready to break their way in if needed.
Open up, please! Put the door in 3 seconds! Police, get back! Police! Get back! Stay where you are!
You're right, we got a warrant. Do you want to get yourself up, darling?
Get back, Lloyd.
You're decent at the moment under there?
The first person they find is the mother of the suspect.
She's laying in bed, she's just getting up now, and we're obviously speaking to her to try and find out where her son is. We'll crack on with a search now. We've got a warrant to execute a search at this premises, OK, and that's been authorised by the City London Magistrates Court. It's in relation to fraud-related offences concerning your son.
Well, he lives at... I kicked him out, actually.
Do you know the address where he's staying at the moment?
No, I don't.
Do you have a contact number for him? That'll be a good start for 10.
While Mark questions the suspect's mother in the lounge, the team starts searching the rest of the house. The hunt is on for documentary evidence linking the suspect to the fraud, so the case stands up in court. Unconvinced that the suspect has actually moved out, they focus on an upstairs room that might be his bedroom. But the first thing they find could be proof of an altogether different sort of crime: illegal drugs.
So there's cannabis in which bedroom?
There's 2 bags there. These are all empty bags with bits and remnants in.
There's an amount of cannabis upstairs in that bedroom. and there's a small amount down here as well. So obviously we're going to be seizing that and speaking to them more about who's around ownership, possession of that.
The search continues. The next thing they discover is a hidden safe concealed behind a fireplace.
Do you last access this safe? Whose safe is it?
The key's been left in the door, so it's a simple job to open it up. Could this be where the evidence they need is stashed?
I'm arresting you on suspicion of possessing a controlled drug, cannabis.
Some chancers take advantage of genuine collisions to cheat their way to money they don't deserve. But insurers and transport companies are fighting back, using every high-tech tool at their disposal. CCTV is one of them. From time to time, buses are involved in minor incidents. Huyton bus station was the scene of one such incident. Valda Grant handled the case.
It was a number 15 bus travelling into Huyton bus station in the northwest. The bus was going slowly into the bus station, and there were some railings on his left-hand side, and he caught the railings with the bus as he was pulling into the bus station.
Not long after, the bus company heard from two of the passengers who'd been on board at the time.
These were two 17-year-old passengers on the bus, and they both claimed they'd got whiplash injury, two with whiplash injury. One said she'd a shoulder injury because she banged her shoulder against the window.
This was an unexpected outcome, which didn't tally with the slow speed of the impact. The bus company wasted no time in checking the onboard CCTV to see if the footage supported the claims. The women can clearly be seen on the bus, but at no point do they seem to sustain any injury from a collision. In fact, the incident is so low impact, the passengers aren't even seen moving. When the women leave the bus, they even appear to be smiling.
When we got our own medical expert, we sent him the CCTV, plus the claimant's witness statements where they explain what happened in the accident and how they were injured. Our expert didn't accept that there was any possibility whatsoever that they'd been injured.
The civil claim proceeded to court, and the bus company used the footage to make their case. Luckily, justice prevailed.
The court dismissed the claim, and the claimants didn't receive any damages.
Without CCTV cameras, it could have been a very different result, and the two women might have got away with their false claim.
It is a sad state of affairs that you need the CCTV, but it would be sadder if we didn't have them, because we would not be able to fight these claims.
When it comes to trying their luck with bus companies, some claimers are even more shameless than the previous pair. At least they were on the bus in question. The next story concerns a would-be fraudster who attempted to claim for injuries that she couldn't possibly have suffered. Jonathan Crooks, the manager of Transcare Law, works for the bus company involved and investigated the case.
Anisa Nassa was in Queen Street bus station in Liverpool.
It's a busy station, and one of the buses was hit at low speed by another bus. Not long afterwards, the company was contacted by Anisa Nassa.
When she presented a claim for personal injury on the basis that she had been an occupant of the bus when it was hit. She claimed that she was jolted and that she suffered whiplash-type injuries to her neck.
The case was passed on to one of the bus company's own claims handlers.
Our claims handler will have checked the CCTV footage from the inside of the bus to make sure that Anisa Nassa was indeed on the bus when it was hit.
What they saw blew her claim out of the water.
Somewhat surprisingly and shockingly, found that no, she was not on that bus. In fact, the camera showed her standing in the bus station watching what was happening.
Watching what was happening and clearly coming up with a scheme to scam money from the bus company. The pictures show her stood outside the bus, watching the impact, and then getting on the bus that was hit after the collision had happened. The CCTV pictures were more than enough evidence for the bus company to reject her claim, but they didn't stop there.
Also, what she didn't realise was that she wasn't in a no-lose situation, because once we'd rejected her claim for compensation, we were determined not to let matters lie there, and that we would try and, as a deterrence for other people, take her to court.
It was impossible to argue with the evidence from the CCTV camera, and Anisa Nassa was found guilty.
The sentence for Miss Nassa was a 4-month suspended prison sentence, 180 hours community service, and she had to pay the prosecution legal costs as well.
But perhaps she's paid an even greater cost than the sentence itself.
She's got a criminal record now. A lot of doors are now shut to her in terms of future employment, applications for mortgages, etc., etc. People just seem to think that they can take an opportunistic pop at people like us, and they live to regret it.
Technology is a key weapon in the fight against insurance fraud. Our next would-be swindler was caught out when she failed to cover her tracks and left an electronic footprint leading to her downfall. In 2011, Jodie Jackman was one of the drivers in a serious car accident. It involved 2 motors and a total of 7 people, including the other driver, Katie Ashcroft. Jodie reported the accident to her insurer and accepted liability. Claire Laver is a lawyer who worked on the case for the insurer.
7 claims for personal injury and other vehicle-related losses were made. The third-party driver received a sum of money for the damage to her vehicle, as did the policyholder, and in total that was around about £11,000.
This payout covered the damage to both cars and the personal injury claims for all 7 people involved. That appeared to be that, until, due to an unrelated matter, Jodie was suspended from her admin job. A routine trawl through her work email account by her employers revealed a surprising email exchange.
Where they had suggested getting involved in fabricating an accident and making a fraudulent claim.
Swiftcover's Chief Claims Officer, Robin Reams, was passed the full details of the incriminating exchange. One email from Katie to Jodie reads,
"All we got to do is carry out instructions when given. You've got 3 in your car. Looks better if we both get handled by different people."
Jodie replies,
"I'm scared, me."
Katie reassures her.
"I'm scared too. Both the guys have done it before, so it's sweet."
It was very clear from the emails that this was a deliberate attempt to defraud an insurer by creating an accident that didn't take place and for 7 people to make personal injury claims that they didn't suffer.
Further digging revealed the motive behind the fraudulent claim was financial.
The 2 girls were undergoing some financial strain at the time. One of them had a loan with a loan shark, another one had some £5,000 worth of debt.
They were desperately in need of the £11,000 payout from the insurer. It turned out they had maximised their money by persuading 5 other people to pretend they were passengers and put in fake injury claims. All 7 were taken to court.
The result of the court case was that 7 pleaded guilty to conspiracy to defraud, and of those, 3 received a 12-week custodial sentence, suspended for 1 year, and the other 4 received a 6-month community order. This seemed to be an opportunity for them to make some quick cash. The result is it didn't work out that way. They got caught. They lost their jobs, they have a criminal record, and it sends a very clear message to fraudsters out there that we will find them and we will do all we can to protect innocent, law-abiding policyholders.
But the story didn't end there. The insurance company decided to pursue the women for the money they'd cheated out of them.
They will have to pay back the £11,000 that was paid to them by Swiftcover in the end anyway. So it was a completely pointless exercise which has left them much worse off than they'd intended.
The Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department, IFED, has come to arrest a suspect they believe is involved in car insurance fraud. He's nowhere to be seen, but they've chanced upon a hidden safe, which they're hoping will contain some of the evidence they need to make the case stand up.
Do you last access this safe?
As they go through the contents, they find an array of checkbooks and documents, which they bag up for further investigation.
It's a security measure to make sure that should they be subject to the burglary, that nobody gets all their their banking details, all their checkbooks, credit cards, passports, etc. Quite ironic, really.
But there's still no sign of the suspect. IFED persuaded the mother to hand over a contact number for her son, but they've had no luck with that either.
It's just going straight through to voicemail. We've left him a number of voicemails, asking him basically to get in touch with us, to basically get himself here.
Their persistence pays off, and he eventually rings back.
Where are you? Sheffield. What are you doing up there? What vehicle are you driving? How are you going to get in?
IFED has done their homework on the suspect. When they eventually make contact, they deliberately reveal some of the information they have, so he knows they're onto him.
I know which vehicles you've got access to. I just want to know which vehicle you're going to come in.
Meanwhile, the family guard dog seems to be having an off day.
Full focus, brilliant. So you're going to be here in an hour? Don't muck me about. I'm trusting you now to turn up here within the hour. Lovely. See you then.
Usually we find that that's enough to draw him back to home, as it were, especially when his mum's here on her own.
Although the suspect has promised to return home, there's still no sign of him after 45 minutes. The IFED team is starting to lose patience. Suddenly, another call comes in, but it's not from the suspect. It's from a man who says he's his lawyer.
I'm going to put the phone down in a minute, sir, right?
The lawyer explains that the suspect won't be coming to the house as promised. The IFED team thinks they smell a rat.
If he's a professional solicitor, he's just laughing down the phone to me. Anyway, that's a nice distraction for us. Where were we?
Their search is turning up an ever-increasing quantity of drugs.
While we're sitting here, there's a waft of, quite a strong waft of cannabis coming from just behind where my colleague sat there, and so that's like the third and fourth sort of small quantity of cannabis we found in the house now, in sort of 3 or 4 different rooms.
With drugs uncovered in several locations around the property, it's important that IFED investigates the illegal substances thoroughly. The mother is the only person in the house, and Mark takes the decision to arrest her in connection with the drugs.
She's the only one on the premises and there's drugs all over it, so she can come in.
I'm arresting you on suspicion of possessing a controlled drug, cannabis, and on suspicion
What, tiny
of
mouse?
conspiring to defraud. The cannabis
my
that's been
God.
found in this house. So,
What? Right, a joint.
what? There's been cannabis found in this
Yeah,
house.
a joint,
Up
yeah.
there. Yeah, it's an offence.
Just then, the suspect calls again.
Hello, was that you? I've had a few phone calls from Mohammed. He tells me that you want to turn up at the police station, not come here. And the time, but you've got 15 minutes to get here, so you've run out of time.
You're arresting me.
Why am I arresting her? For cannabis possession and conspiracy to defraud. Your timing couldn't have been more impeccable. She's just been arrested and she's going to the police station. Are you coming to the home or to the police station?
There's scales, there's grinders used for grinding down cannabis resin and bits and pieces like that. Scales for weighing the drugs out.
Suddenly, there's a commotion at the door as someone tries to enter.
Oh, mate, hang on. Who's that? Come on, fella.
It's her son, but unfortunately not the son IFED is after.
Yeah, well, just leave it, man. Like, what can I do? I've just woke up, man. Get that out of my face, come on.
Although they didn't get their hands on the suspect, IFED has found significant amounts of potential evidence to help with their case. It's been a successful raid. Mark is confident they'll eventually get their man.
He is a very well-known person and he will come sooner or later to our attention or to the police's attention. He'll get arrested sooner rather than later if he fails to give himself up today. So we will catch up with him eventually. Would have been nice to have got him today, but like I say, we've secured all the evidence from the house, so we're not going to lose anything in relation to our investigation.
The police eventually arrested the suspect and questioned him about the alleged fraud. He and his mother are currently on bail, and the investigation is ongoing. In the short amount of time that IFED has been in existence, the team has had a huge impact, investigating over 300 suspected insurance scams and taking the fight to the fraudsters.